Hi, welcome back to another video.
So I've needed a new lamp in my office for a long time, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make one. That way it'll fit perfectly with the aesthetic. I mean, this is the place where I keep all my haunted dolls and skulls and all kinds of creepy stuff. Today, I'm going to take you through the process of designing and making a new lamp. The first thing that I did was I searched the internet for pictures of cool, creepy lamps. Now, a lot of these are AI generated pictures, I'm sure, but there are certain things that I really liked. I like this kind of goth Victorian aesthetic. The beads, the filigree or damask. And so I thought, well, let me make something like that. And now this one particular design stuck out to me. I think these are beautiful lamps. And again, I don't know if these are real or if they're AI images. I tried to see if I could buy them somewhere, but I couldn't. They're watermarked with a company called the Goth Shop, but that doesn't exist. So let's just make something. My first thought was that I wanted the main body of the lamp to be like an urn, like somebody's ashes were in it. So I did a lot of work in the 3D modeling software, so you're going to kind of see what it looks like in there. I'm not going to talk about how to use that software or anything, and I realize that not everybody has the skills or the opportunity to use this. I'm just showing you my process. So I built this basic urn shape. Now, I want to have some feet on the bottom so that it's sturdy. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I started with a coffin shape and had like 5 or 6 coffins in a circle? And I thought, what about the angles at the top? I wonder if you put them next to each other, if it will make a full circle. So I started off by building a coffin, a single coffin. And then I just made a bunch of duplicates and rotated them around in a circle, and I got this cool shape. It's kind of like a star, like a snowflake, but it's made of coffins. And I didn't get the angles right at first, so I just adjusted my angles until they actually fit together perfectly. At this point, I thought, this is cool, but it's really flat and boring, and so I wanted to kind of put a bend in the coffins, and I realized that might make them look a little bit less coffin-like, but I will know that they came from coffins, and that's really what matters. So then I started just bending them into shape. And I added a few more extra details like little handles on the side, some grooves to separate them out so you can see that they're coffins. But now it's time to connect them to the urn, and so I just used some donut shapes and kind of put them together to make a decorative little base and connector. Now the urn itself is very plain. It's just a smooth urn. And I really wanted to add a bunch of decoration to this, maybe a damask pattern, or damask pattern? I don't know how you say that. I'm going to say damask. Anyway, I wanted a damask pattern, but I figured I should make it myself. So I took inspiration from the human body and the bones inside of us and started to come up with a damask pattern based on bones. So I went into a 2D graphic program and first I gathered some images. This is a damask pattern that's kind of what I want, but it's not exactly what I want. I found that online. I'll use that as inspiration because I'm going to do a skull and I can get some ideas from there. But I grabbed a pelvis here and a sacrum and I flipped it upside down. And then I just spent a few hours drawing these and breaking them apart, making them flourishy to be like a damask pattern. And here's what we've got. So here's my skull, and then I've got the sacrum, and the pelvis I turned into a butterfly. I've got a rib cage over here, and a few other decorative pieces. And then I threw in a few just regular Halloween things. I've got a ghost and a bat. Anyway, so I'm able to take these 2D images and import them into my 3D software and turn them into just little flat 3-dimensional objects. I then took them into another 3D software where I could add some details on top of them. So I put ridges and grooves and valleys all along it to make them a little more interesting. Then we kicked them back into the original software where I bent them into shape, and then I could move them around and place them on the urn where I wanted them. I wanted to add a little bit more decoration to the coffins, so I decided to add this symbol, which you may see this symbol on a lot of my work. This is actually my touch mark. It's got my initials in it. It's got an ankh. So this is basically like my signature, but I also think it makes a really cool symbol in general, so I decided to throw it on here a couple of times. I didn't show you, but I also added some strategic holes, and I broke the model into pieces so that it could be printed on a smaller printer or printed a little bit at a time. The whole printing process is going to be long. So then I began the printing process, and ultimately I had to print this whole thing twice. This first print that I made, my filament was getting old. I ran out of filament, had other old filament. Anyway, the print was not beautiful. And this first print was 2 pieces, and one of them took over 2 days. The other one took about a day. That's a long time, and when one piece messes up, then you have to wait another couple of days to print. It can be annoying. So I broke it down into 4 pieces. 4 pieces so that I could print them, and that way if something broke, then I can, just print that one piece. It still took the same amount of time ultimately, but it felt shorter because I was doing just a little bit at a time. Anyway, I am going to make this model available to you, so if you have a 3D printer, then you're welcome to use my file and print your own. I'll leave the link down in the description below, along with the list of all of the materials that I use for the video. This is the second print that I made, and it's much nicer than the first print. Now with all the pieces here, I need to glue them together, so I'm using a 2-part epoxy here, though super glue works fine. It's just something I wanted to try on this. The one piece I'm not going to glue on is the very top crown. You'll notice that the top of the urn has a wider hole than all the rest, and that's because this little piece for the lamp has to fit through the top, but then the bolt has to fit somewhere, and so the bolt will fit in the bigger hole right here just fine without any interruption. So I'm going to glue everything together except for the tippy top, and we're going to paint and prepare and everything the top before we finally glue that on. I've covered the process of preparing a 3D print for paint in other videos, so again, I'll leave a link down below. Check out the video. I think it's called making a 3D print look like real bronze. Anyway, I go over in detail the process, but right here I'm just going to fill in gaps, do a lot of sanding, and then I'm going to spray it with some primer, do some sanding, rinse and repeat until eventually it is smooth the way I want it, and then I'm going to paint it with a satin black spray paint. Now, assembling a lamp is extremely simple, so I'm going to be assembling it here just on the top of the urn. When you buy a lamp kit, it comes with a bunch of pieces. In this case, it came with this thing. It's the lampshade holder. The lampshade that I'm using is a different kind of lampshade, so I don't need this, so I'm just going to take this and the other parts that go with it, set those aside. Now the lamp itself is just made out of these pieces. It's really just this piece. This holds the light bulb, and the small piece here is used for mounting the lamp wherever we want it. And we do that using this threaded tube that came with the kit. I'll show you a little bit better here in a second, but there's a nut on one side, and then we've got these washers, and the hole on the top of the urn is just the right size for everything to fit. So we've got the nut on one side, of course with the washer, and we'll just tighten this up. And then on the other side, the bottom of the lamp just screws right into place. Now the top piece will just snap down into this, but we don't want to do that yet because we need to hook up the power cable. And if you remember, I made this with a hole all the way through it so that the power cable has a place to go. So I'm just going to thread this through from the bottom and up through the bottom of the threaded tube also. Now that I've got the power cord threaded through and the nuts on and everything, I can actually finally glue this top piece of the urn down to the base, and I'm going to do that with some super glue. Now to hook up the wires, I'm going to take the top part and just pop out the actual electronics. You'll see there's 2 screws here, one on each side. I'm just going to loosen those up, and I'm going to take the ends of the wires and just wrap them around the screws and screw them down. That's all there is to it. Now I just put the electronics back in the top tube, and then I want to test it out before I snap it all together, so I'm going to put a light bulb in, and it works. And now you just take the top part and you push it down into the bottom part until it snaps, and we have a working lamp. Okay, let's start working on the lampshade. So I got the idea for making this lamp probably 2 years ago. Since that time, I've kept my eyes open at yard sales, thrift stores, looking for the perfect lampshade. Now, I never found any lampshade that was already made, but I did find this lampshade that is about the right size. I want it to be small, and it's divided into sections. In this case, it's 6 sections. And I'm going to add all of the decoration myself. So I started by taking a piece of tracing paper, and I traced out one section. So I would kind of have an idea of the size and shape that I needed to fill in with a damask pattern. Damask pattern? I forgot how I decided to say that. Anyway. Now I could have used the same pattern that I used on the base of the lamp on the urn, but my favorite animals are crows and ravens, corvids, and so I decided let's use that as reference or inspiration. And so I started coming up with a pattern, and I drew it, and it didn't quite feel right, so then I drew it again, and I liked the second one better. You'll see I only drew half because that's all I needed to draw because I can mirror it. And there are 6 sections, so I need 6 of these, and I could have cut them out by hand. That would have been fine, but it would have taken forever. Since I have one, I decided to use my laser, and I'm cutting these out of craft foam. It's EVA foam. It's, I don't know, I think it's 2 millimeters thick, and so I cut out 6 of those along with other pieces that I want to use to decorate. And before I put on the damask, I'm going to run a border along the bottom using this black ribbon. And everything that I'm going to put on the lampshade, I'm going to do using contact cement. So that entails putting glue on both surfaces, waiting for it to dry, and then putting it together. And I'm leaving about half of the ribbon hanging off of the edge because I'm going to glue that up underneath as well so that it wraps around the bottom. Now I want to run some decoration down the vertical lines as well, so I guess it's time to bring out the GIMP.
Well, bring out the GIMP.
GIMP is this cool swirly ribbon trim, and I'm going to cut out 6 pieces and using contact cement glue them onto each of the vertical pieces. Now it's time to put on the damask patterns, and the thing that's hard with this is to get the best results with contact cement, you want glue on both surfaces, and then you let it dry, and then when you put it back together, it sticks really well. But there's no way that I'm going to be able to paint this intricate design of glue onto each panel. So what I did instead is when I put the glue onto the foam piece, I kept it a little bit thicker than you would normally do. Normally you go very thin. Then I put it in place and pressed it against the surface, and then immediately pulled it apart, and that left some residue on the surface. Then I let both pieces dry, and when I stuck it back together, it stuck very well. Once all 6 crow pieces were on, then I added this other little decorative piece of damask that I cut out of foam as well. Got that all the way around, and now it's time to add a little bit more interest at the top. So I designed this crown piece, and it's very specifically designed for this lampshade. The distance between each of the kind of the vertical spikes is different because the lampshade isn't actually exact. I mean, it's sometimes they're close together, sometimes they're further apart. But I glue this on just like everything else, and I'm just going to let this crown kind of stand up over the top. To add a little bit of depth to this on each vertical piece, I have a little shape. It's the same shape, but just the vertical piece, and I'm gluing that on. This also will add a little bit more rigidity to it since it is just foam. And the last piece is something that I saw in every one of the reference images that I found of Victorian lamps, and that is some kind of beaded fringe. So I have this beaded ribbon, and I'm going to just carefully glue it right around the bottom ring. And now with the beads on, this is finished. So let's take a look at the final product. In fact, let's take a look at it in my office. I had a lot of fun making this lamp and trying some new things, and it looks so good in my office. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you didn't mind me showing you a little bit deeper into my design process. Not everything I do is that pre-planned and complex, but this one was. And anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. Give it some hype so that YouTube knows other people might like it as well. And tell your friends. Also, if you like this, subscribe, because this is the kind of stuff that I do. And I'd love to share other projects with you in the future. Until next time, don't be bored, be creative.